I'm Frank Collins. I'm a member of the Heritage Alliance, and lately I've been a part of the Historic Jonesborough Oldest Town in Tennessee License Plate Committee. So you've probably seen my name recently. Today I'm going to be talking about historic image overlays. It's how to use automated tools to enhance historic research. So some of the things that I'll be showing: Google Earth, free software, DeedMapper, the original land records from Jonesborough, some of the deeds, surveys, grants, the original 1796 Plan of Jonesborough, Sanborn Fire Maps, and some more. So I'm going to start off with a record that's the area that first became Jonesborough. So this is the original land grant, David Hughes, in 1778. That's when Washington County was part of Norfolk. And this land grant incorporated part of Jonesborough. And you can see in the grant as a courthouse. There was a courthouse here in 1778. The original land record mentions a dwelling plantation in Jonesborough. You have Little Limestone Creek, Jacob Hamilton's Road, Old McMahon Road, shows Indian Ridge, and Bowling Green. It also has the meets and bounds for the track. South 68 degrees east, 200 poles. A pole is 16.5 feet. In 1779, North Carolina Assembly passed an act where it's 100 acres of land placed fixed for the courthouse and public buildings in Washington County, a town be established by the name of Jonesborough. The survey created a 100-acre tract on Little Limestone Creek to specify sites for town buildings and identify 50-plus lots. The lots were sold for $75 each at the time. Each lot owner is required to build within 3 years a well-framed brick stone house. If they didn't build, the town would take the lot back and sell again. And in 1783, David Hughes sold 500 acres of this 600-acre tract to James Allison. He excluded 100 acres now laid off for the town of Jonesborough. In 1796, there was a plan of Jonesborough created, carved out 64 lots. It was the 100 acres that became Jonesborough. And these are the 64 lots. But this wasn't recorded into the Washington County Register of Deeds until 1851. The reason why it might not have been recorded in 1851 is the town likely kept the records at that time. They were in charge of the 64 lots, and it just wasn't recorded in the Washington County deeds until then. And I haven't seen the original Jonesborough records. It's possible they've been lost to a fire. Jonesborough, there were many fires. Here's a close-up of the 1796 plan of Jonesborough. And you can see the original lots. This one is home lot CH, that's public lot courthouse, that's where the courthouse stands. The lots are numbered 1 to 63, and that's the 64th lot. Market Street became today's Main Street. Water Street became Woodruff Avenue. Chestnut Street became College Avenue, College Street. And then on Back Street, there's a little section we still have called High Street. This little squiggly line is Little Limestone Creek representation of it. DeedMapper is software that takes meets and bounds and it's used to create land plats. It creates like puzzle pieces that can be used to determine where land previously stood. Here's the close-up of the screen in DeedMapper, the software. And you can see it has, like when I mentioned before, south 68 east 200 poles, pole being 16.5 feet. You would enter it into their deed entry form here. And you also put the points where it meets, like 2 hickory trees and a white oak is one of the boundary lines. So you put all of these meets and bounds in, and then it creates this plat that you see on the right side of the screen. One of the points that I noticed that was interesting is there's 2 dead chestnuts over part of Indian Ridge. So you can imagine that boundary would be pretty hard to find today. It'd also be pretty hard to find probably 10 years after that was created, since the chestnut trees were dead. Now this DeedMapper image, you can add a USGS map, United States Geological. And this is the plat over current Jonesborough. Also have a 1796 Plan of Jonesborough loaded, and then there's this other section here, it's a 1791 record. Part of the tract was sold and left out this part, so it's able to give us the position of where the larger 600 acre tract was located. Okay, before I get to the fun part, which is Google Earth, I'm going to give you a demonstration of how this will work with the overlays. Talk about Google Earth. It's free software from Google. Anyone can download it. Just log in. It's on the reference sheet. So it visualizes and analyzes satellite images of our planet. Scientists and nonprofits use Google Earth for important research. And you can visualize locations of historic land tracts and maps. And you can also see aerial images change over time. Okay, so I'm going to do a demonstration now. This slide isn't the one I wanted, but. So now I'm going to log into Google Earth. Are there any questions before I start? Okay. Okay, this is the initial screen of Google Earth when you first log in. So first I loaded the 1796 Plan of Jonesborough. Okay, we're back on track now. So this is the 1796 Plan of Jonesborough. It shows the 64 acres that I was put on the screen earlier. I'm going to turn it around. It's facing north now, so I'll spin it around so we can read the numbers. And you can see the 64 lots. What you can do, though, is with this transparency feature, like if I go into public lot courthouse, and then I scroll out, you can see there's the courthouse right in the middle of the lot. And you can see Market Street is what became Main Street. You can go out and in. You can see that. Water Street became Woodrow Avenue. You can see how that changed. Actually, where the Chuckey Depot is, that would be on Water Street. And that's because when the railroad came through, the road was reconfigured. And you can see Chestnut Street and College Avenue line up. When Jackson Boulevard was built, that affected Back Street. And you can see some of the original town lots for Jonesborough are actually on the other side of Jackson Boulevard. As you scroll in and out, where Victory Fit and the bank and the gas station are, Back Street used to go right through where their parking lots are. But a section of it still exists. It's on this side. That's the Burger King right there. So behind the Burger King is High Street in the original part of Back Street. So I'm going to. So you can see how we pinpointed where the lot is. Now I'm going to go to the DeedMapper, and you can see the pink outline. That was created with DeedMapper, the 100 acres. So I'm going to turn it to north-south, do north again. And we'll turn off the plan. So there's the square. That's the original 100 acres of Jonesborough. And then this lot here was where it's actually James Allison sold 326 acres, and it excluded this part here, so you can see precisely where Jonesborough fits. Considering where this deed is, it fit right around where Jonesborough is. And that tells us the position of the original 1788 600 acres. So if I have all three of them, you can tell now that the original 600 acres occupied this position. And when you have Google Earth up, you can scroll in and out and see what's located within these tracts, see how far it goes. Like this one comes down to Depot Street, Persimmon Ridge Avenue. So you can see these were part of the original 600 acres. And I can overlay the original land plat over this. So show you that on the map. Okay, so that's the record we first looked at, and that's its precise location. You can see the green outline. That's the DeedMapper matches the meets and bounds. You can turn that off and on, and you can see it precisely matches the outline of where the map is. So if you want to see what's underneath the map, you can use the transparency feature again. If you highlight the right record. Okay. So you can see what's underneath. But if you look at the tree line, you can see the tree line is there. We still have a lot of the trees left that were there in 1788. This little area here says the Bowling Green. So if we wanted to try to locate where the Bowling Green was located, it can scroll out, and the old Herald and Tribune building is right there on 11 East. So somewhere in that general area is the Bowling Green. Now, a lot of these on this particular tract, they're not precise. The courthouse wasn't like 75 acres wide, and so it's just an approximation. It just kind of tells you that there was a courthouse on the tract. Yeah, and the position of Little Limestone Creek isn't exact. The two roads, the old McMahon's Road is probably what became Main Street. That one is not precisely lined up to it. Okay.
So the those maps and see some plan and DeedMapper.
Yeah, in DeedMapper, you position the maps using DeedMapper, using the USGS maps. And once you've done that, you can convert them to KMZ, which works with Google Earth. But I can show you, give you more help if you need it at a later point. Probably a little too technical for for this presentation. Okay. Okay, so any questions about anything I've shown so far? Okay. We'll be showing the Sanborn Fire Maps a little bit later, so that's even more fun. So turn that off, exit. Back to presentation. So I'm going to go back to this slide. Okay, the Washington County Archives has created a project called the Early Landowners of Northeast Tennessee. Actually, Donna Briggs is here, and she's the creator, and with Gordon Edwards helping. And this month, they've added David Hughes, which features the tract that I've just shown, and also a lot of other information about David Hughes. So let me show you the website real quick on that. So if you go to the Washington County Archives website, there's a link right here, the Early Landowners of Northeast Tennessee project. So you click on that, and well, if you click on that, it'll take you to the different projects that have been completed so far. So how many have you done so far? 13? Okay. 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 Well, the website's starting to come up, but you can trust me, they're there. But basically, the project that Donna and Gordon created, it builds on the DeedMapper work of Lucy Gump. She's a local historian, or was a local historian, a proponent of the creation of the archives. So she had DeedMapper files for a lot of the earlier land grants in Washington County, and Donna and Gordon have kind of taken it to the next level, added all sorts of extra detail. And so if you want to see a particular tract that might have been one of the earlier grants, I recommend going to the archives. It's right across the street there. So what's that? Oh, it's not. Okay. And the website's on your handout also. So now back to next item. So now we'll talk about Sanborn Fire Maps. The Sanborn Fire Maps were produced in the mid-19th century in response to the insurance industry's need to assess fire risks for cities and towns. They were the earliest publishers of fire insurance maps. They accurately measure structure shapes and locations within property boundaries. They provide information about building materials, building use, type of roof, number of stories, porches, and other details. They're considered the most accurate and detailed historic records of building and construction. Okay, for Jonesborough, we're very fortunate. We have 6 sets of Sanborn Fire Maps available. 1888, 1892, 1907, 1913, 1924, and 1939. Now, these maps are all public domain. They're not under copyright. And they're available online for download from the Library of Commons. So I've included that in the reference sheet that's passed out. There's also a set in the town hall. I believe Dr. Kennedy, you donated those to the town hall.
Well, this started working on this.
But they're beautiful to look at. So if you want to see them in person, go to the town hall and take a look at the walls. And if you're interested in other areas, they have areas all over the country. But other local areas covered are Bristol, Elizabethton, Irwin, Greenville, Johnson City, Kingsport, Mountain City, and Rogersville. More technical difficulties. Okay, while we're waiting on that, on your reference sheet, there's several things included. But I had a Google Earth Pro. You can download it for free. Great to work with. Pro is the one that you can handle it on your laptop. They also have a version that runs off of a browser over and download. DeedMapper, the software I showed earlier, uses beads and mouse to create puzzle pieces to assemble the old land tracks. That's available through direct line software. That doesn't have a price or cost, so it's $99. And it's got the Washington County Archive site on here, so be sure to take a look there. The North Carolina land grants are listed. There's actually 217,460 land grants issued in North Carolina between 1663 and 1960. But when you're searching for land records in our area, be sure to select Tennessee, Washington County. It's North Carolina also has a Washington County, and you can see the land grants in our area. They've also got the link for the Sanborn Fire Maps at the Library of Congress. The Washington County, Tennessee land records can be found, at least the ones through, I believe, 1860. They're online, familysearch.org. Back up again, so we'll continue here. Here's a close-up of the Sanborn Fire Map. The structures that are pink, these are brick buildings. The ones that are yellow, like shown in the video, is yellow, but the screen, but these are yellow and they're frame buildings made out of wood. When you have an X across the building, those are stables. So these are all stables that were in Jonesborough during this year. It also tells you the number of stories, like there's a 2 here. It's a 2-story house. It's 2-story frames. It tells you the type of roof, whether it's shingle, composition, a tin roof, or slate. So you can tell that with little symbols like the X in the corner. It also tells you the type of structure. Like this is the Washington Hotel. D stands for dwelling. Some of them it's kind of hard to read, but it's just the grocer, hardware. So there's a lot of detail in the Sanborn Fire Maps. So now we'll go back to the Google Earth Pro and show you how that works for the Sanborn Fire Maps. So first I'm going to show you the 1888 Sanborn Fire Map. Bring that up and zoom in. So this is 1888 Jonesborough snapped to the Google Earth image with the roads lined up. And since Sanborn was able to accurately place these in the exact position on the lots, it lines up perfectly when you line it up with the roads. So I'm going to first zoom in on this. Locust Street became First Avenue, and this is Main Street, which at this point it's called Main or Market Street. So it uses both the 1796 Market Street and the current day Main Street. So if I zoom into this structure, this is the Eureka Inn in 1888. And as I change the transparency, you can see the size of the building has changed since 1888. It was much smaller at that point. As I go across the street, this is where Elihu Embry house was located. It's 3-story with a brick basement. There's also a barber shop next door. So if I go into today's satellite map, you can see those structures no longer exist, which we already knew. But now the May Dishner house is at that location. As I move further down, the Presbyterian Church was here in 1888. And I changed the transparency, and you can see it's still the same shape, except for today there's an addition on the back of the building. A little bit further down, this is the lot where the Christopher Taylor house was moved. That occurred in 1976. But in 1888, there was actually a 2-story brick dwelling on that lot. So as we know, the Christopher Taylor house wasn't at that location at this point, even though the structure is quite old. Across the street in 1888, there wasn't as much. You can see there's a lot of new buildings, or not new, but buildings that were built after 1888 there. This particular one near the stage door is labeled as furniture and coffins. Go a little bit further down, you see the Chester Inn, still the same exact shape as it was in 1888. It was called the Planter's House in 1888. Where we are today, the Storytelling Center, was a series of 5 brick stores: grocer, general merchandise, drugs, another grocer and general merchandise there. So if I scroll out, you can see there's the Storytelling Center. Across the street where Mox is located, you can see that building was there in 1888, still the exact same size. And then if I go down to the courthouse, our current courthouse was built in 1913. So this was an earlier courthouse. And as I scroll out, you can see the shape of the earlier courthouse was a little different than the courthouse today. And you can also see on the map, the courthouse was used for more than just court. It says agricultural implements and farm machinery first. So the first floor had an extra use. The court in room 28. Mine might not be reading that correctly, but that's it had more than one purpose back then. As we scroll over, you can see the parking lot today used to have a jail and the Washington Hotel. So if you change the transparency, you can see that now it's just the parking lot and backs up to the railroad. Okay, is there anything in particular anyone else wants me to see from 1888? Structures you're interested in? In 1888, the archives building didn't exist. If I scroll in, the archives is this building. Where is that building? How far out does 1888 go? Oh, yeah. I'm going to show you 1939 in a second, but 1888 only stretches from First Street up to Boone Street, roughly. Mm-hmm.
The Tennessee.
The mill, I think there's one around here. I don't see a mill on Little Limestone Creek, or I'm not looking carefully enough. Where's that? Up the creek some? Oh, you're talking about that? Oh, Smith Brothers Flour Mill is what we're looking for. Okay, well there it is on the map. Yeah, in 1888. Yes. Oh, well, these maps don't tell us that, but I thought Marcy's house was possibly the oldest structure. The Chester Inn is the oldest commercial structure in the oldest town in Tennessee, possibly the oldest commercial structure in Tennessee.
Is it sure? Including our studio, but probably they, by name, maybe it was.
Yeah, I know there was one on Main Street at one point. Yeah. And you can see other things labeled here. And you're welcome to take a look at them yourself on the Library of Congress site and at Town Hall. Okay, I'm going to move over to the 1939 maps. 1939 actually had 5 pages, or 4 pages of 5 maps. So I'm going to go ahead and turn all those on. This works for the internet, so sometimes it takes an extra second here. Yeah, I've got Bright Ridge fiber at home, so it's like instant. Here I'm working with it's got an old Linksys router at the Storytelling Center, so it takes a little bit longer. So you can see I've pieced together the 5 pages of maps for 1939. So in 1888, you were concerned the borders didn't show everything. Well, in 1939, we have a much wider area that you can look at. So you can see how far out it goes. But for this presentation, I'm just going to focus on the downtown area. Otherwise, we'd be here a long time. So I'm going to start with the area that we already looked at for 1888. And as I go down the street again, okay, the Eureka Inn, it's right here at the corner. It's now called First Street in West Main. And as I change the transparency, you can see the shape in 1939 pretty much matches the current shape of the Eureka Inn. So its expansion took place between 1888 and 1939. We could also look at all the other Sanborn maps that are available to Jonesborough to narrow it down even further if we just wanted to use the maps to determine the expansion. You go across the street, and that's where the Elihu Embry house was, but now it's just the May Dishner house. So that was built by 1939. The Presbyterian church is still there. It's still the same size. It's labeled as a vacant church in 1939. So across the street where we saw furniture and coffins, it's now a much larger building, and it's an undertaker. The Jackson Theater building is there. You can see that brick structure. Post office is there. The Main Street Cafe took over that building. We can go down to the Chester Inn, and you can see the Chester Inn still the same shape in 1939. Where we are now, the Storytelling Center in 1939 was considered the Andrew Jackson Tavern, and it was 5 brick buildings before, but now it's showing 4 with a little more frame structure to it. So you can see how that's changed. The Washington County Courthouse in 1939 it was built in 1913. So you can see it's the main shape of the courthouse now, but it doesn't have that rectangular addition on the back. It's just the front part in 1939. And then you can look around, see there's the county jail in the parking lot again. The Washington Hotel is now a smaller frame structure. We still had stables in 1939. The Limestone Creek is covered behind the courthouse now. It's a pipe, but it was open back in 1939, so you can see how that changed. It's now a walkway. And one thing you can do that's real interesting is you can have both 1888 and 1939, or you can have multiple images open at the same time. So I'm going to open 1888, and you can see the Eureka Inn again here. There's the size in 1939. There's the size in 1888. And you can see how buildings existed in 1939 and did not exist in 1888. You can go to the courthouse and see that there's the current courthouse building, and there's what it looked like in 1888. And so you can go all over the map and see different changes. It's just real interesting to kind of follow history using a map. Are there any structures? Oh yeah. Amy's here to remind me of things I'm forgetting to present. Okay, one thing you can do, I've got just the 1888 map up right now. Google Earth has a feature where you can show 3D buildings that'll kind of come through the surface. So if I turn on 3D buildings and terrain, it shows the current buildings sticking up through the original map. So you can see there's the courthouse sitting on the Sanborn Fire Map. And you can see through the map there was a stable here, and that's just open land now. It's in front of the public restrooms. You can see there's no structure where the Washington Hotel was. But that's a fun little feature to play with, just to see. There's the Eureka Inn sitting in that corner. Okay. So are there any other structures that you're interested in while I've got the maps out? Okay. And I'll have time after the presentation if you have anything specific you want to talk about. Okay.
Where did we go to high school? There it is.
Yeah, that's
There.
okay. So here's the house on the 1939 now. So is this where you lived? Okay. So it was a 2-story frame dwelling, and then if I scroll down, you can see it's no longer there. It's part of the,
There.
at the Presbyterian Church, oh, behind their house at that location. Okay, huh.
Well, it was also, it's still. First big thing, they go back in the trucks.
Oh, yeah, I'm not, if it was there in 1939, it might, the Sanborn Fire Maps might not show tennis courts. I'm not sure. Okay, yes.
Come down.
Okay, we have people that might know more about it than me. Do you know about the Washington Hotel when it's taken down? You don't know?
No, it's.
Yeah, I don't have the answer to that, but
Yes.
oh, really?
It was so.
But any artifacts like that, the Heritage Alliance would love to have a copy if they don't already have one. Just a scan of the item would be fantastic to add to their collection. Okay, before I leave the Google Earth, I want to show you where I live. It's Academy Hill. Okay. Academy Hill is the old Jonesborough High School, and here's where the building's located. I created a little snippet of the Sanborn map. This is from 1939, so I can scroll in and out, and you can see the old high school building is still there. And when I moved there, I was told that there was a school, a prior school on the property, and I was curious about where the location of that building was and how it fit with the existing building. And I was able to find that using the 1924 map. And you can see here that that old school building was actually right behind the new school building. And later on, actually Carolyn has a picture. It has just a little piece of it, but in 1927, both buildings were on the property at the same time. So the new building was built in 1926 and the old building was torn down in 1927. So and that's how you can use the overlays with that other one was from 1924 compared to 1939.
How do you find where the overlay, or how do you know precisely where they need to go?
Basically based on the streets.
So you use all in places there.
Yeah, and sometimes like the scale's not, you have to stretch it.
Yeah.
And then it fits precisely over the buildings when you stretch the streets to fit, like between Second Avenue and Washington Drive, you pull it out, make sure it's lined up with Main Street, and that put the high school building exactly where it was.
You could go to, the ETSU, archives of Athens. There was a project taken, last year where they, one of the maps, and so just pick them up and put them, they're in RGA for me. You can read them and, I mean, if you have excellent start, that's you can turn from some. So some of those reasons.
Yeah. Do you know whether you can do it in maps and support it or the whole firm?
I work with you.
Okay.
So,
With DeedMapper, you take the USGS maps and you have to pin the corners of the latitude and longitude, make sure those are in the correct position, and then you can fit the
All of that.
yeah, fit the land tracks on top of that. Okay, well, I just mentioned Academy Hill, so here's the current building, or the new building. This is the old school building that was behind Academy Hill, or behind the current building.